Hey, what's up, Nashville? I am Bo Beach. This is the Free Speech Podcast. We are an entertaining recap of Nashville commercial real estate news for busy property owners. The idea is we will catch you up on 2 weeks of news in less than an hour. As always, we are brought to you by Beechwood Commercial Real Estate Brokerage, your AI enhanced broker for sellers in Nashville and the Southeast. I'm going to give you a quick overview of all the stories we're going to cover today, and then we are going to get into them. First, a lower Broadway building is listed for an eye-popping $130 million. We'll walk you through those numbers. Next, chairman of Oracle Health thinks that people who have been in the healthcare industry for 30 years or more should be ashamed. Right? So Oracle, who's moving their world headquarters to Nashville, mostly because they are doubling down on health, what they're calling Oracle Health, is throwing some bombs at the healthcare industry. And I totally agree. I'll share with you what he said. Chick-fil-A is expanding to include a new beverage-focused restaurant concept called Daybright. I'll walk you through what that means. Our new NFL stadium, right, where the Tennessee Titans will play, is now 50% complete. I'm not sure the way the Titans are playing that we're worthy of one of the best stadiums in the country. Nevertheless, we're getting one and we're halfway there. I'll catch you up on that. A West End hotel sells for a $10 million loss, right? We've shared with you in previous weeks how office buildings have been trading at losses, occasionally. Certainly not an epidemic. But if a property were to sell at a loss, you'd guess it were an office building. The last thing you'd guess is probably a hotel use in Nashville. But here we go, a $10 million loss. M.L. Rose owner lists his redeveloped Gallatin Pike property for an eye-popping price. So I've got some personal experience with this particular property. I knew what was going on here. I did not know this property would be relisted on the market for $9.5 million. I'll walk you through that. What bankers expect after the Fed's recent rate cut. So, in the last show, we talked about what commercial real estate practitioners, including myself, expected. In this show, we're going to bring you some words directly from the bankers themselves. Big Plan Holdings is branching out to North Nashville with a wellness-centered housing development. Wellness-centered housing in North Nashville. That's an interesting story. Big Plan Holdings is going to be in two of our stories today. We're going to briefly touch upon residential real estate, a business we are not in, but I thought this was an interesting story. Nashville TV show Home, the home used in the Nashville TV show, which is located in Forest Hills, just got listed on the market for $24.5 million. I'll walk you through what that means. A group plans a new 12 South development, and the 12 South is an interesting story, I think, because they're targeting very unique first-to-market retailers. In my opinion, those types of uses can only afford a certain amount of rent, but they seem to be coughing up some really aggressive rent because the prices being paid for some of this property in 12 South is really kind of eye-popping in itself. I'm going to walk you through what's going on there. And lastly, we're going to finish with another lower Broadway story. I know that's very interesting, easy to understand. So anytime there is lower Broadway news, we tend to share it with you. Another lower Broadway building listed $79 million. So we got two properties recently establishing asking prices on Lower Broadway, one for $130 million and one for $79 million. Those are real numbers, and you've got to sell a lot of drinks to be able to pay those types of prices. So let's get into it. Lower Broadway building listed for $130 million. John Bon Jovi themed bar. Okay, this is one y'all are going to have to help me with. Who thinks John Bon Jovi is cool? I've never understood the appeal of John Bon Jovi. Is it a female thing? Are we trying to attract women? I mean, are attractive women into John Bon Jovi music? Is that the idea here? You go to the John Bon Jovi themed bar because that's where the attractive women are? That could be an idea. But John Bon Jovi just doesn't seem very cool to me at all. Doesn't seem very Nashville to me at all. Nevertheless, this building is home to his bar, which is not actually his bar. I'm sure he licensed his name to the owners of the bar. Also home to a restaurant and a live music venue. This property only opened in mid-2024, so it's practically new. It is a 5-floor structure, and Nashville-based Big Plan Holdings owns the property, right? So I just mentioned Big Plan Holdings for that wellness-centered housing development in North Nashville. Very, very bold idea. Here they are bringing a new-to-the-market building for $130 million. They paid $9.4 million for the dirt in 2020 to bring that property fully leased to the market in 2025, 5 years later, for $130 million. They redeveloped the L-shaped building that accommodates John Bon Jovi's Nashville, USA. The offering is equivalent to $3,500 per square foot. John Bon Jovi's bar, which is not actually his bar, that's just the theme of the bar, they do have a 20-year lease in place, and the total rent being paid for this building, get this, an annual rent being received in this building of $6,443,000. So if you are willing to cough up $130 million, you can collect $6.5 million in rent annually for having done so. So there you go. Of all the buildings to ask $130 million, you're committing to John Bon Jovi's bar for the next 20 years. And if anybody out there understands what John Bon Jovi has to do with selling drinks to folks in Nashville, let me know. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I certainly wouldn't be paying $130 million to have 20 years of exposure to John Bon Jovi. All right, let's keep moving this. Let's talk health, Oracle Health, right? Like I mentioned, the chairman of Oracle Health thinks that people who have been in the healthcare industry for 30 years should be ashamed. Productivity of doctors has actually gone down. The cost of care has gone up. The complexity and the sludge is terrible. He hopes that in the next 30 years, a lot of the problems facing the industry today will be solved by technology, specifically artificial intelligence. And if you've been following Oracle Health at all, it's really an artificial intelligence driven product. You could literally double or triple your nurse efficacy if they didn't have to sit at the computer or find supplies. So those kinds of AI things, he says. Artificial intelligence is sweeping through the healthcare industry, and Oracle, which plans to move its headquarters to Nashville and oversees Oracle Health, is investing heavily in the technology. Oracle Health has been working in partnership with Ascension, the parent company of Nashville-based Ascension St. Thomas, for years now to develop AI tools for the hospital system. In Ascension, we are blessed to have 600 data scientists who do a lot of data analytics, use of AI to guide us through where we should be going to reduce inefficiencies in our health system. So that's pretty shocking in itself. Ascension employs directly 600 data scientists who are now working hand in hand with Oracle Health to figure out where they can make the most difference in the healthcare business using AI to make doctors and other support staff more efficient. I get it. I don't know if there's ever been a time where the average healthcare provider has been less impressive than they are now. I think a lot of the blame goes to the insurance industry, all the pressure that the insurers put on these operators. A lot of the smaller mom and pop privately owned practices have given up and just joined big hospital systems, and that's primarily due to not wanting to deal with the insurers and all the BS that comes with that. So I do blame the health insurance industry, which is a racket. I will tell you that my family does not purchase health insurance anymore. We've got a different strategy in mind there, but we are forever done with traditional health insurance. It is an absolute racket. And then the care that you get for the price that you're paying is just, it doesn't weigh out. It's really a bad place that our healthcare system, on average, right? I mean, clearly there are providers out there doing it the right way, but on average, our healthcare system has really never been less impressive, in my opinion. So a company like Oracle Health coming in to try to change that makes perfect sense to me. I expect them to be successful in that regard, which is going to benefit all of Nashville, of course, having them headquartered here. Chick-fil-A plans to open a new beverage-focused restaurant concept called Daybright. The standalone concept will feature specialty coffees, smoothies, cold-pressed juices, and food. However, no Chick-fil-A menu items will be served at Daybright. So they have a common ownership, but they are not going to cross over in a traditional way. Fast food juggernaut McDonald's earlier this year shelved its Cosmic spinoff concept. Instead, the burger chain plans to serve Cosmics-inspired drinks at hundreds of its restaurants. So McDonald's just tried to do this. Taco Bell is doing something similar. They're trying to get in on these kind of custom soda concepts that my children constantly are begging to go to. So they're trying to get in on the action. I'm not sure it's a real viable thing for some of these big operators to do. The first location for Daybright is going to be located in Atlanta, so we'll see how that goes. This is very much a test and see what we learn situation rather than a big nationwide rollout where you're praying for Daybright to show up in your neighborhood. It's unlikely that will ever happen, but if it did, it would be years down the line. But I do think it's interesting that all these big players are trying to get into the soda business. The standalone specialty soda business is essentially what it is. Let's keep moving. Our new NFL stadium approaches the 50-yard line. Wow. Man, what a creative headline that is. The Tennessee Titans' new $2.2 billion Nissan Stadium has reached the halfway mark. On track for a November top-out of the structural steel. At the beginning of this month, glass and metal panels started being installed. The 1.8 million square foot stadium remains on track for a February 2027 opening. There are a whopping 1,400 people per day working on this site. Around 70% of the current season ticket holders have carried over to the new stadium. Of the 130 suites throughout the stadium, 6 remain available. That's interesting. So I wonder if the annual season ticket holder churn is really about 30% a year, because you wouldn't think that you'd be losing season ticket holders to go to a better, more impressive stadium. It also could be a direct reflection of how brutal Tennessee Titans are. I want to care about the Tennessee Titans. I got no problem with anyone that does. I'm glad that you support your local team. I just don't get it. Of all the things one has to do in their life, and then that small amount of time you have as free time for leisure, why you would give it to the Tennessee Titans, I have no idea. But I'm also really kind of down on the NFL. I don't fully understand why the NFL is supposedly the biggest professional sports league in this country. I'm not sure I believe it. I just don't. I don't like how they've operated their business. They've gone very woke. They've really toned down what players can and cannot do on the field. With all of the commercials and all of the nonsense, I really think that there's just better options for your leisure time than NFL football, and certainly better than Tennessee Titans. I mean, they have been god awful, and anybody that's willing to 70% of season ticket holders are going back for another year. I mean, they might not win a game this year, and you're committing to season tickets for next season already. That's wild. I just don't fully get it. I think I'll give you a theory on this. Sorry, drink a little iced coffee there. I'm trying to get away from the energy drinks. I used to be a little bit of an energy drink addict, and I'm trying to chill out a little bit. So, the beautiful thing about coffee, iced coffee, is it tastes terrible, so you don't want to drink that much. You drink energy drinks, they taste like grape Kool-Aid. You can drink 100 of them. So you drink the poor tasting stuff, and the net result is you drink less, right? So, what was I just talking about? The NFL. Oh, so here's a theory of why I don't understand why the NFL is as popular as it is. It seems to me, this is just a theory, seems to me that the folks that went to college, I don't care if you graduated, I don't care about any of that. If you went and experienced college, right, that had a football team, like a real college that had a football team, it seems to me that you are much more likely to be into college football. I love college football. I've really gotten into college football this year. It's 4-hour games, crazy. We got to do something about the length of these games, but at least for the Tennessee games, right, the Vols games, I try to tune in for that 4 hours, and I've been enjoying it. So the college people, I think, prefer college football. But if for those people that did not go to college for whatever reason, I'm not trying to big time anybody. I actually am not paying to send my children to college. The world has changed, and it's unnecessary. It's a waste of time and money. But for those folks in the past that did not go to college, I think those folks are much more likely to be NFL fans. So you've got I don't even want to say college educated because that's so lame, but the people that went to college, I think, prefer college football. The people that didn't go to college, I think, prefer the NFL. And since most of the people in my circle went to college, it just doesn't seem to me that there's much interest in NFL football, but it might just be I'm living in my little bubble. So I will quit riffing and I'll get back to the news here. West End Hotel sells at $10 million loss. The Aloft Nashville West End Hotel sold for $25 million to California-based Samara Capital Management. The deal marks a nearly $10 million loss from its previous sale a decade ago. AIG Global Real Estate, believe it or not, headquartered in Des Moines, Iowa, an arm of the insurance giant, was the seller. AIG paid almost $35 million for the 11-story hotel in 2015. The hotel offers 139 rooms at 1719 West End Ave, making the deal about $180,000 per room, a 28% loss for the seller. This is all very interesting because Nashville ranks #1 for post-COVID group and transient hotel demand. Out of the top 25 markets in the U.S., we're #1. Despite the continued growth in Nashville's tourism scene, this is not the first discounted sale of a local hotel this year. In April, the Embassy Suites Nashville at Vanderbilt, same area, sold for $57 million, a nearly $9 million loss from its 2015 sale at around $276,000 per room. So the per room rate, the per room cost rather, much higher for the Embassy Suites deal. but both those transactions lost the seller about $10 million, $10 million losses on each of them, both of them located in the neighborhood of Vanderbilt. So I'm not sure. Someone that specializes in hotels, so we've listed and sold hotels before, but I'm not the guy that is really tuned in to the day-to-day demand of these hotels. I don't know what's throwing off demand in that Vanderbilt submarket, but something is happening there. The tourism doesn't seem to be reaching the West End like perhaps it once did. Maybe there are superior options closer to downtown that are getting that business. I'm just guessing. Let's keep moving. ML Rose owner lists his redeveloped Gallatin Pike property for an eye-popping price. So I'm real familiar with this deal because our group marketed for sale the property immediately next door. And we spoke to Austin Ray, the owner of ML Rose, to see if perhaps he wanted to acquire that property as well, at which time we kind of learned everything that was going on with this deal. When I learned of this deal and what their plans were, I'm not sure I ever connected the dots to $9.5 million, but that's where we're at. They're now seeking to sell the East Nashville building for $9.5 million after having paid $2.25 million for the property in August 2023. So keep in mind, this was not a land purchase. This was an existing building, right? So they renovated an existing building that had a nice large parking lot that came with it. They bought that existing building for $2.25 million, renovated an existing building, and now is offering for sale at $9.5 million. Keep in mind, when you've got a fully leased building, the value of that building is determined by the cash flow that it generates. So this building is now generating enough cash flow to at least ask on the open market $9.5 million for that cash flow stream. 2 years ago, Austin Ray acquired the three parcel, 1 acre Inglewood property. The building housed a vintage clothing store, Old Made Good, and consignment shop Wallpaper and Home Consignments, with the overall property also offering 58 parking spaces. And I remember when they did that deal, the part that really sold the property was that parking lot, that 58 parking spaces in that Gallatin Pike corridor, which Inglewood is a large portion of it. The big challenge there is the parking. So a lot of those sites are underparked. So when he finally found a building that was in rough shape, it had a little bit of character, but it was in rough shape. The part that sold it was that existing parking lot. Ray opened ML Rose, a local restaurant and bar chain known for its craft beer and burgers, in this structure in July. He and other owners of the property updated the 1940 open building to accommodate that business. In addition, the former grocery store structure is home to Creve Hall Bagel Company, Club Pilates, and soon Nick the Greek, a restaurant. So 4 tenants fully occupy the property, built in 1940 as a grocery store. So we're talking about a very substantial redevelopment of this existing building to get it to this place. Quote, Inglewood reminds me so much of Melrose when our first location opened, and Sylvan Park when we opened the second one there. This is how ML Rose was built, betting on strong and growing neighborhoods. And I agree with them on that. I do think Gallatin Pike in East Nashville is a corridor that is poised for very substantial growth in the future. Inglewood is further north on Gallatin Pike, so it's the northernmost section of East Nashville would be called Inglewood. And I will tell you that while new development and redevelopment has proliferated in the southern side of East Nashville, there's many pockets in the north side of East Nashville that has yet to gentrify. So I do think that Inglewood area on Gallatin Pike is a lovely spot to invest in commercial real estate. Let's keep moving. What bankers expect from the Fed's rate cut? I kind of have a disposition to not like bankers very much, I'll be honest with you. I think bankers have really made my job difficult over the last 3 or 4 years with their unwillingness to lend money to qualified buyers. So, it's hard for me to read all of their comments knowing how much problems they've caused for the market. But we're going to do it anyway, okay? And I know it's not even like the loan officers themselves. I'm aware of that, right? The people that call themselves bankers are not the problem. It's the decision makers. It's the board that, many of these bankers are actually salesmen of loans, right? They're trying to get loans done with people, but then they've got to go to their board and get them approved, and those boards are shutting down these folks. So I'm not hating on the salesmen themselves. I'm hating on the behind the scenes folks that said, oh, we're too scared to lend money right now. Let's just stop lending for 3 years and see how that goes. That's kind of what's been happening. Bankers are looking to last week's interest rate cut from the Federal Reserve to deliver a jolt for deal makers. That's especially true after the Fed suggested that 2 more cuts could be coming before the end of the year. Quote, we're anticipating at least another 50 basis points for the remainder of the year and more next year. We're gearing up for a much stronger demand from a banking standpoint. We just don't know how much potential business activity is sitting on the sidelines waiting for the cost of credit to come down, but we're going to find out. This move was reassuring that we likely have entered a new period of easing that should build confidence and more activity. And the interesting thing about that is, it's not the market, it's not the investors, it's not the owner occupants, it's not the developers that cut off demand, right? I really think it was the bankers that cut off supply. So this idea that we're gearing up for much stronger demand, I think the demand has always been strong. What banks are ready to lend? What banks have the guts to lend? And I know a lot of it has to do with federal regulation, right? So federal regulation really ties the hands of a lot of these lenders in an effort to minimize risk to the greater system, right? So they're micromanaging these lenders, and the net effect has been lenders stop lending, right? So I really hope, I know Trump has been doing a lot of great things. He's been the most active president in the history of the country. I really wish he would set his sights on the red tape that these lenders are being forced to play by. Let lenders lend to anybody they think will repay the loan. Let's get back to mom and pop lenders being able to lend money to mom and pop businesses, right? Let's get the federal government out of the back room of these banks and let them make their own decisions, right? That's what needs to happen. And of course, I'm not going to study the federal regulations, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. I do know, having spoke with bankers, that they blame it on federal red tape that is causing problems in their business and the reason that they're unable to make more loans than they currently make. So somebody that knows what they're doing needs to get involved and cut the red tape. Let's let these bankers start making money again. Let these bankers start lending money again. And let's get back to a healthier overall commercial real estate market. That's my hope. Let's see if it happens. Big Plan Holdings, right? This is the same group that listed John Bon Jovi's themed bar. Don't get me started on that again. Same group that did that deal, right? Did that development. They are now branching out to something new, something they've never done. And they're starting in North Nashville with a wellness-centered housing development, which is, listen, big balls. Something you've never done before, right? Wellness-centered housing, and you're starting in North Nashville. Really big balls. Give these guys credit. The Nashville-based family office and investment company, right? That's what Big Plan Holdings is, a family office and investment company, known as the group behind JBJ's, I guess that's what they call the bar, and Hank Williams on Broadway and Playdate in 12 South, has made its debut into the residential real estate sector. They recently announced plans for what's called The Lanes, a $95 million wellness center project between Germantown and the Nations, and what the group says is the largest private investment in the history of North Nashville. Big, massive balls. It's Big Plan Holdings' first residential project. The concept is 2 to 3 years in the making. Quote, we were really adamant about not building townhouses because we didn't want to do something that we feel like everyone else is doing. The development will offer 154 homes, starting in the high 600,000s, and will include 1.5 acres of dedicated wellness space, featuring a full-service fitness studio with saunas and cold plunges, a pool and sun deck, green spaces, outdoor and gathering areas, and a centrally located community house, spelled H-A-U-S, which drives me crazy. Why are we spelling house like that? Are we in Germany? What are we doing? With a full kitchen and workspaces. In hospitality, you're trying to create an experience for folks that they enjoy and want to come back for. We're trying to create the same thing in real estate. We're trying to be really thoughtful about changing the way that people live their lives in more of a community feel. They are set to deliver their first homes already in October. Big Plan Holdings focuses on 3 areas: hospitality, real estate, and venture capital. Moving forward, this sort of model neighborhood is what we're going to try to relocate. They are interested in other areas like East and North Nashville, as well as Mount Juliet in Lebanon. So that's interesting. East and North Nashville get paired with Mount Juliet in Lebanon. I assume for different reasons, because I don't see the commonalities between those areas. So good for them. I hope it works out. I hope it's cool. I hope they can get people that are focused on wellness in their life to consider that location. Yeah. Nashville TV show home. For some reason, I just can't say it. Nashville TV show home, located in Forest Hills, just listed for $24.5 million. Big ones. It ranks amongst the most expensive the city has ever seen for a residential property offering. It's being sold via auction. Local real estate investors acquired the roughly 6-acre property and the 22,000 square foot Georgian style house that anchors the wooded site in December 2023 for about $7.5 million. 2 years ago, $7.5 million. Today, almost $25 million. This is a Belmead area property. Belmead neighbors Forest Hills, right? Yes. That area still kind of confuses me. Belmead, Forest Hills, Green Hills. But I don't know why we have to say Forest Hills and Belmead area. I'm not sure I agree with that. 1358 Page Road. Fans of the show Nashville, which ran 6 seasons from 2012 to 2018, will recall the character Raina James, played by Connie Britton, lived in the home. And I actually thought Nashville was dope. You know, I really like Nashville. I'm not a big TV guy. That was a long time ago, so I don't really know how much of that I watched. But when I did watch it, I did enjoy it. What was once one of Nashville's most talked about residences has now been reimagined from the ground up. The house was built in 1999. The home on the grounds offers 6 bedrooms and 7 full bathrooms. So it's not an old home. It looks older than it actually is. But to buy it for $7.5 million, redecorate, I'm sure they did more than redecorate, but restyle it, redecorate it, renovate it, refresh it, whatever you want to say. You've got a lot of profit built into that thing if you buy it at 7.5 and you list it at 25 2 years later. So we'll see how it goes. You know, it is the idea that you're selling it to someone that wants to tell people this was the house on the show Nashville, and they're willing to pay a $10 million premium to say that? I don't know, maybe so. I wish them luck. I'm no hater. I hope they make it. Okay, we got 2 left for you, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Group plans new 12 South development. I don't know about y'all. I don't know if you ever get to 12 South. It's not really my thing. You know, I go there for business when necessary, but you know, when I have some personal time, 12 South is not something that's on my radar. But the amount of money being paid for properties in that area are really kind of staggering. The team bought the property for more than $16 million last year, right? So for $16 million, they bought a corner in 12 South that includes 2 existing buildings, right? One of the buildings will stay. The building on the corner is going to be demolished. And that's where this new building will be coming out of the ground. Another piece of 12 South is set to be demolished, making way for a new development. They're planning a new retail building. The retail building that will be built there, only about 12,000 square feet, replacing the retail building that houses Gabby and Summer Classics. The new development will rise next to the building that is Reese Witherspoon's Draper Jane's clothing store. So if you know where that is, right, it's right next to that on the corner. So the building that was included in that $16 million is that Draper James building. And then you've got the property on the corner that's getting demolished. The property on the corner is lovely looking. It's not like it's in rough shape. You know, it's a perfectly good building that they're taking down to create a 2-story, 12,000 square foot retail building, right? They seem to know what they're doing, so have faith. The group also developed and owns the nearby 12 South Collection development. The out-of-town team paid $16.44 million last November for the 0.62-acre property where the new project is slated to rise. They are calling it 12 South Collections 2, right? And the part that makes this most interesting for me is the eye-popping prices being paid. So you pay $16 million for 0.62 acres with 2 existing buildings. You knock one of them down only to replace it with a 2-story, 12,000 square foot building. Normally, if you're knocking very expensive buildings down, you are going much bigger. You're going much bigger with their replacement building, right? So if you take down a 6,000 square foot building, I'm not exactly sure what that is that they're taking down. But let's say it's 6,000 square feet. You take down a 6,000 square foot building, you're usually going to put a 30,000 square foot building in its place. In this case, using just round numbers, they're taking down a 6,000 square foot building and only building a 12,000 square foot building. It's hard for me to understand how the numbers work in that scenario, but they really must be getting crazy rents from these retailers. You know, my understanding is with that 12 South Collections, their major thing is they're trying to attract first to market retailers, meaning that's their only location in the whole Nashville market. So I don't know. It must be working for them, or they wouldn't have continued doing it to the next property. If anybody knows the numbers on 12 South, it's probably these guys. So it's got to be possible. But I think many of us who aren't that close to that type of user are scratching our heads like, how do these numbers work? How do you pay so much, knock the building down, and then not replace it with something much bigger? How is it going to work? And I'm not sure. But again, I'm not a hater. I'm sure they'll figure it out. Lastly, lower Broadway building listed for $79 million. So I will tell you, this building did hit the market earlier this year, but did not have an asking price associated with it, which has become the norm in Nashville in our market. The commercial real estate business, you've got brokers that are listing properties and not giving the market an asking price. I personally don't believe in that strategy very often, unless you truly don't know the value of the property and you're really trying to create a competitive bidding environment. We do have one listing like that today where we truly don't know its value, so we aren't assigning an asking price. But most of these guys have an asking price in mind, and they'll tell you if you call them personally, but they're not going to publicly display it and make it easy on everybody. And I won't get into why I think they do that, but I think it's self-serving to the brokers themselves rather than the seller who's trying to price maximize. Downtown for sale building known as Basin Alley Building now offers an asking price of $79 million. In April, the 7-story building, home to restaurant, bar, live music space, Nashville Underground, was originally listed for sale for an undisclosed asking price, only 0.2 acres. The building, almost 55,000 square feet, 1935 construction. Okay, so when you compare this offering at $79 million to the offering we discussed at the top of the show for $130 million, I like the $130 million deal better because, first of all, it's occupied, right? It's easier to finance, you've got cash flow. But more so, this is 1935 construction, whereby the $130 million deal is brand new. Let me tell you something, the way they built stuff in 1935 is very, 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 very different than we build things today. You would much prefer newer construction over old construction. The sellers paid $30 million for this property in 2023 and then invested $14 million into the upgrades. So the idea is they're claiming to have $44 million into the deal and are asking $79 million for the empty structure that includes 2 full kitchens, the only 2-level rooftop found in a Broadway building, and interestingly, a privately owned alley, which they are suggesting could be used for increased occupancy, which I hadn't heard before. So I don't know how that would work, but if you could put the privately owned alley to work and get additional space to park people and sell them beers, I suppose that could be cool. So that rounds out our show today, y'all. As I mentioned, we are trying to bring you 2 weeks of commercial real estate news in 1 hour or less. And that's what we're going to do going forward. I know, being in the commercial real estate business, how busy commercial property owners are. I'm busy myself. It's hard for me to keep up on all this myself, and I'm in the business every day. We're pulled in a lot of different ways. So, if you are a commercial property owner who has a hard time keeping up on everything going on in Nashville, because it is popping, there's a lot going on, please continue to tune in to the Free Speech Podcast. We're going to bring you educational, informative content, maybe even a little bit entertaining. I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to oversell it. But I do think informative, educational concept where you can boil down 2 weeks of news into a single hour that you can listen to while you're mowing the lawn, while you're on a walk, while you're lifting weights. I think it is a really good concept that I hope you take advantage of. As always, we are brought to you by our one and only sponsor, Beechwood Commercial Real Estate Brokerage, your AI-enhanced broker for sellers in Nashville and the Southeast. If there is ever anything we can do for you, including updating you on the current value of your property, or the second most asked question that we receive, how do I avoid paying taxes if I were to sell my property? If either of those questions, the value of your property or how you avoid paying taxes when you sell, if either of those interest you, I encourage you to reach out to me or anybody in our office, and we'd be happy to have that conversation. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.